Що це дебіли команди не їдуть?
Зараз як стало будемо дивитися, що дуже сильно розумієш. Сильно розумієш, що ти
Ти сюди вийди без щита, без шльома, йолки-палки.
Українцям на гідне життя в українській державі. Сьогодні мирна акція. Сьогодні зібралися народні депутати України, зібралися їхні помічників. Зараз проходить зустріч просто з простими громадянами. Товариство, для чого ви влаштовуєте цю провокацію? Можливо, саме зараз від вас залежить доля української держави.
Слава нації! Ну конечно.
By these 50 countries, differing so much in race and religion, in language and culture.
It is a big idea, a new world order.
Well, I know they're lying. They tricked me once, but they're not going to trick me twice. The time is now. Welcome back to the Professor Penn podcast. David Penn, your host. Glad to be with you. For episode number 275, we're going to talk about the revolution tonight on this Thursday evening, January 29th. I hope you're well. I want to thank everybody for joining. Remember, caucus is next Tuesday, February 3rd. You want to change the arc of history, go to caucus. Go to caucus. If you want to change the arc of history, and those scenes we played in the cold open, those were scenes from the color revolution that was in 2014 in the Ukraine, where the Russian-leaning government was toppled in a coordinated, it looked like a street action, but actually it was an orchestrated event. And we're going to talk about the orchestration of revolution, because there's always this, it's the people. The people are in the street. Yeah, they're people in the street, but how they got there, how they're funded to be there, who's putting the deal together, this is something we have to pay very close attention to. And at this moment, since we have Minnesota citizens out in the street in below zero weather, it's, the scenes, good morning, Tanner.
Good morning.
I mean, they're not exactly the same scenes, but
very similar.
There's a little similarity there, isn't there?
I would even say some of the architecture I thought kind of looked like Minneapolis.
Well, architecture is a very important part of culture, and culture is worldwide, and Ukraine has elements of Western architectural culture, so that's a very interesting comment. But the point, the reason why I ran that, well, we have to understand that the war in the Ukraine, which is ongoing, there's people dying right as you listen to this tonight, watch this tonight. It started when a pro-Russian government was toppled And there is very good evidence that you can go find right on Wikipedia that this was funded by the Obama administration, was quarterbacked by the CIA. George Soros was involved. Now, of course, we don't know for sure. I don't know for sure. They have this new video that popped up with this unfortunate man that was shot and killed, and there's a video of him kicking out a taillight on an ICE vehicle just several days before he was killed. And the issue comes out, is that him or is it AI? We're in a moment of whoa.
Well, did you see that they altered his photo when they had released it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's getting a little strange, isn't it?
Really
and really
strange. All
all that we're figuring out now is something that's been going on for decades is now in everybody's face. It's, our reality testing is being undermined. And that's part of creating the conditions for revolution. And we do have a revolution underway. Tanner, could you put up this picture that we're going to use for the thumbnail that's at the top of the script? Can you highlight that picture when we do this? There's a sign there. And can you read that for me? Can you read that where it says immigrants so you don't blame billionaires? What does that say there? Can you see that?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
They blame immigrants so you don't blame billionaires.
Okay, now let's think about that. We blame immigrants so we don't blame billionaires. I agree with that.
That's not wrong.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So again, we have an agreement on the populist far left and the populist far right that the source of the funding, the source of the Great Reset, which we're going to talk about in a podcast coming up very soon, because it's here. We're here. You watching the price of gold and the price of silver?
Yeah.
Very spooky. It's these billionaires. It's this class of unaccountable, phenomenally wealthy people. And the ones that are wealthy, we know their names, like Musk, like Zuckerberg. Mike Lindell is focused on Zuckerberg for whatever reason. That's interesting to Mike Lindell. The ones where we know their names, they're not the real rich ones. They're the ones that are erected as the totems.
Yeah.
There's another group that own the banks behind the scenes. We don't know their names. Actually, their names are starting to come out now too, but we're a long way from knowing who these people are. I mean, the real players that are funding all this. A lot of layers to go through.
Yeah.
I mean, most people are still caught in the left-right dimension. I hate my neighbor. He's a Democrat. This is a little bit goofy, okay? Because as long as they have us hating on each other, and we're going to play a clip from Secretary Kennedy where he talks about as long as they got us hating each other, right and left, and old and young and white and black, as long as we hate each other, hey, they got us right where they want us. So as we were coming in the studio today, Tom Homan was giving a press conference about what's going on in Minneapolis, and we're talking about dialing down the rhetoric. And, that's just part of the revolution, and that's what we're going to cover today. Just for a little bit of context, could you please play number 2?
Like they just have to hold it a little more taut.
Question for you, Mr. Tanner.
Yeah.
As a drone master,
Mm-hmm.
is that real or is that AI?
Oh, I'd believe it's real, but it's definitely against the law because him going around that building means nobody had a line of sight. You always have to have someone with a physical line of sight of the drone. So this is highly illegal, but I'd believe it's real.
You think that's real? That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Now, it was 10 below zero. 10 below zero. I'm going to say this to the people that watch me that are Republican Party officers and Republicans in the state of Minnesota. Do you notice we can't get 50 people in a room for a meeting? 50 people won't come out. We see that when we try to have our community meetings.
Yeah.
These folks I don't know how many people were out there, but that's a lot of people. Thousands, tens of thousands.
Yeah.
Now, it's like any other event. Politics, sports, business. Who wins is who wants it the most. And if you think about the intensity required to stand in 10-degree below weather for hours, these people are motivated. And to get that level of motivation, there is a ideological indoctrination. There's a culture there. There's a membership there. There's a secret society behind that kind of street organization that has created the structures, the ideas, the cultural artifacts. Everything here speaks to me of revolution, of army, to get people to go out into that kind of weather. And so I can't even see us getting any more people to caucus. I mean, maybe we'll get a few more. I mean, maybe we will. Maybe 100,000 people will show up. But if we could take this clip and get it out and just say, wow, they can put thousands of people in 10-degree below weather, and we can't get people out to caucus. You can't win like this. You cannot win. You see, these people, last year, their issue was transgenderism.
Yeah.
That didn't play too well in the election. So they've dropped that. Now these are our neighbors. We don't want borders. People are not illegal. There's no illegal people. And this all makes sense to a certain kind of mind, because if you're a communist, you believe in world workers uniting. You believe in the destruction of sovereignty. You believe in technology and one world government, because that's what you've been acculturated into. So, wow. I mean, I guess we're going to have to get a lot better at personal empowerment, because these people are empowered to be in the streets. Go to caucus and show up and quit complaining. A woman asked me something about what I thought about Walter Hudson and his participation in the fraud committee and uncovering fraud in Minnesota. And my answer is very simple. Ask not what your country can do for you. What can you do for your country? Every single Minnesotan is culpable for this fraud. What are you doing to protect your own assets, if you have any? And if you don't, what are you doing to get some? Because it's important for your longevity and your well-being. Let's take a look at number 3. Well, that's Minneapolis St. Paul International Airport, where I'm frequently there. I was just there, and I know it well. And can you imagine you're trying to conduct business or going to pick up your daughter who's coming home from somewhere or taking a vacation, and you go out, and that's where you go to get dropped off to, take your flight. And guess what? No air travel at that time. So these folks demonstrated that they could close down one of the primary economic drivers of the Minnesota economy. And there's been strikes. My local restaurant where I go meet my team once a week on Fridays to go over things closed last Friday because there was a strike day. And I think there's another strike day this Friday coming up.
Yep. Tomorrow.
Right. I don't think the strike's going to be called off, because Tom Homan just announced as we were coming on into the studio today that he had met with Governor Walz and Mayor Fry and Attorney General Ellison, and they'd reached some agreements. He said that we didn't agree on everything, but it's better than it was before I came here. I don't think these street protesters are going to back off.
No.
Because what they're going to see and what they're going to claim is that these Minnesota Democrats are sellouts.
Or they're just going to say that the Trump administration has strong-armed them so much that it put them in a corner.
Well, they are strong-armed because they're all under investigation for all kinds of things. Who knows what kind of deal was cut? President Trump, according to Tom Homan, called Tom Homan Monday morning and said, Mr. Homan deployed him in Minnesota. So the President Trump called him Monday morning, and he was here in the state on Monday evening, and he's trying to make things better, whatever that's going to mean. Now, at the same time, we had these protests going on, which, Tanner, would you agree these got wide international coverage?
Yeah.
Okay, please play number 4. This was a protest, a pro-life protest that was held at the same time in Washington, D.C. There was reputed to be 100,000 people there. Seemed rather peaceful.
Yeah.
People walking. Seemed like they were having a good time. Did you know that protest happened?
No.
Of course not.
You said that recently happened.
Happened at the same time these Minneapolis protests were going on.
I didn't hear it at all.
Because there's no coverage.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the power of media to shape the narrative, which is part of the revolution.
Do you need tires? Go to tireget.com, TIREGET.com. The link is down in the description. I don't know about you, but I don't like waiting in a tire shop or talking to a salesman. TireGet makes it so easy I can order the tires right from my couch. Seriously, it's one website, a few clicks, and the tires are delivered right to your installer. You drop off your car, and boom, your tires are on. Plus, you get to support Free People Radio. So not only do you get tires, but you also get to support your favorite show. We'll even throw in an extra little deal. Just enter promo code FPR in the checkout for an extra 3% off.
Well, for people my age that grew up with the Minnesota Vikings, and my with the Vikings was starting when I was a teenager. They lost 4 Super Bowls in a very short period of time, maybe 6 or 7 years. The Purple People Eaters lost 4 Super Bowls. And, when you lose 4 Super Bowls, and you're 14 years old, I mean, that's painful, right?
Yeah.
Because I remember I said I used to watch every football game because I am a Minnesotan. Could you please put this picture up of Alan Page? Alan Page, a former Viking great, part of the Purple People Eaters, the front 4 of the Vikings, devastating. Gary Larson, Carl Eller, and Jim Marshall. I still remember these people's names 50 years later. That's the impact these people had on me. And Alan Page subsequently went on to become a Supreme Court justice here in Minnesota. So let's just ask ourselves, why did this picture come up? Because for me, I went, wow, Alan Page is I know Alan Page. I said, wow. Well, they used him to legitimize these protests. And let me show you how they did it. Please play number 5.
In over 230 straight games for the Minnesota Vikings and the Chicago Bears, Alan Page was a member of the Vikings' famed Purple People Eater defense. Using his quickness and agility, Page dominated many facets of the game, including blocking kicks, recovering fumbles, and most importantly, making big tackles. These skills helped Minnesota reach the Super Bowl 4 times. The Canton, Ohio native was the 1971 NFL Most Valuable Player, a 4-time NFC Defensive Player of the Year, and an All-Pro selection 9 straight seasons.
I grew up in Bloomington, Minnesota. Everybody in my neighborhood playing football in the backyard had Vikings jerseys, but they were all number 10, Fran Tarkenton, number 44, Chuck Foreman. My parents had to get me a purple shirt and iron on 2 88s. I had the only Alan Page jersey in the neighborhood. was moth-eaten. My mother was mortified to send me out of the house with it. 25 years after that, when I told Paige this story of my seeking the autograph from him and my having that only threadbare Alan Page jersey, a few months later, in the mail, I get a 3/4 sleeve white 88 jersey that he had signed to me and said, "This is to replace that jersey that you lost when you were 8." I can count on one hand the number of interview subjects that I've gotten a handwritten note from afterwards.
Alan Page was born and raised in Canton, Ohio. As a teenager, he worked in construction and helped build the Pro Football Hall of Fame. In 1988, he was enshrined there. But nothing else about Alan Page followed a direct path.
He revolutionized the defensive tackle position. When he came in, he said the coaches wanted him to kind of man this 1 square yard of space, his lane. He never found that particularly interesting. And so you'd see him going through all different kinds of gaps. You'd see him swimming around 2 defenders at the same time. You'd see him pulling different colored jerseys down, and maybe one of those guys had the ball and he'll sort it out afterwards. He looked just huge in uniform with those pads on. But out of uniform, he's a fairly skinny guy. He's run 1,000 marathons. You would not think that he was one of the greatest players in the history of the National Football League.
Page is the only defensive lineman ever to be named league MVP. Relentless and at times even volatile on the field. Mild-mannered and cerebral off of it. He was a ferocious competitor, but cared little about his one career failing, never winning a Super Bowl.
It's just, it's another football game. I suppose if it were more than that, if it were the end of the world, the spectacular that it's made out to be, then I'd be somewhat more concerned about, winning or losing. Come Monday morning, I'm going to be on my way back to Minnesota to law school. And Tuesday morning when I'm in class, I'm just going to be like everybody else sitting there in class. It's not going to be that big a deal.
He was studying law in the locker room as an NFL player. Had this notion of becoming a lawyer since he was a kid, and football stardom, unusual for a lot of athletes, didn't interest him. He thought it was kind of silly that people thought he was better than other people because he could play football. And that's one of the reasons he didn't sign autographs for a long time, was because he didn't feel like I'm somebody that you should think is special just because I play football.
The man who once ruled the middle of the greatest defense in Vikings history would go on to become a...
For people my age, and there's a lot of us left here in Minnesota, when you see that frostbitten picture of Alan Page, which was widely disseminated after that protest, that's quite a credentializer for Minnesotans. And I loved Alan Page. And I'll tell you what's very interesting. This is why my life, I just can't get all the connections I can make. Because when Alan Page was going to law school at the University of Minnesota Law School, guess who was his next door neighbor in the next seat? My mother. Oh. So here I am, an Alan Page fanatic. And my mother, who told me at the kitchen table, she's a revolutionary, I can't overturn this government in the streets. I'm going to become a lawyer and I'm going to wreck it from the inside, which is exactly what she said to me. And she went ahead and spent her whole career doing it. And she went to the University of Minnesota Law School, and the person sitting next to her was Alan Page. Oh, I thought that was so cool. Cool. And he went on to become a justice on the Minnesota Supreme Court. And there's something even more important about this, because when my mother and Alan Page were at the University of Minnesota Law School, there was a very famous law professor there who I knew personally because he was hanging around with my father, who was an academic at the university, and my mother was a student at the law school. His name was Peter Gable. And he was a Gino, a Jew in name only, a leftist, a revolutionary. And he was one of the people that changed the law in America. Peter Gable is famous. He's famous for bringing a critical analysis to legal study. It's called CLS movement. He started it in the 70s when Alan Page and my mother were at law school with him. He was a teacher there. And it was a progressive intellectual framework that critiqued traditional legal doctrines as tools, listen to this, reinforcing social hierarchies and citizen alienation. So my mother was there, Alan Page was there when this legal system was changed. Because, of course, back in the day, all the judges, hey, hang them high, baby. They were conservatives. But these people went into the law schools. They changed legal education. They changed lawyers. That's changed judges. And so our judiciary now and our legal estate is highly influenced by leftist ideology, social hierarchies and alienation. Peter Gable was also a psychologist, and he was interested in why people commit crimes, not stopping people from committing crimes. So this has led, in my opinion, not in a direct line, but in some kind of circuitous, unknown, unseen plan to where Minnesota citizens can go into the streets and harass law enforcement with impunity because the legal system here in Minnesota is very favorable to that kind of thing. It didn't happen by accident. It wasn't that George Soros started putting money to elect county attorneys and attorney generals all over the country. No. This has a long history. This didn't pop up overnight. Some of this actually came organically from individual citizens, and it did come from the academic, from the academy. So if we want to address why our citizens, our fellow citizens, are willing to go out into 10 degree below weather and risk their lives and lose their lives fighting for people that entered this country illegally, many of whom are criminals. And Tom Homan this morning talked about 2 million people entered this country. They could have been fingerprinted. They could have been flown to the city of their choice. They could have been put up in a hotel, given 3 meals a day, and a work permit 6 months after they arrived, and a cell phone. Pretty good deal. That was like 13 million people. But 2 million people, according to Tom Homan this morning, passed on that deal and disappeared into the United States of America. Now think about who those people are. Who are those people? Here, thank you. Fingerprint yourself. We're going to give you an air ticket. We're going to give you money. We're going to give you a cell phone. We're going to put you up in a 5-star hotel, maybe 3-star. We're going to give you meals, and we're going to let you work. That was the Biden administration did for 10 million plus people. But 2 million people, did you know 2 million people passed on that and just disappeared into our communities?
I did not know that.
Now you know. And now you know what ICE is doing. ICE is trying to find those 2 million people before they start killing your fellow citizens and neighbors. And these people are out there protecting them. This takes a certain kind of ideological perspective called color revolution. Color revolution. What is a color revolution? Color revolutions are characterized as, you don't have to, I didn't make this up. You can go find this on Wikipedia. This isn't secret stuff. Color revolutions are characterized as non-violent mass protests leading to regime change, typically targeting semi-authoritarian or hybrid regimes where elements of democracy coexist with autocratic control. I would say that has described the United States of America for at least since John Kennedy was shot. We're only realizing it now. But particularly after 9/11, not to get into all that conspiracy theory, the passing of the Patriot Act, the diminution of our civil liberties and our civil rights, the increasing undermining of our institutions, I would say that when people tell you to stay locked in your house, close your business, and there's actually a movement that could have culminated in, if you're not vaccinated, we're going to intern you. There's a lot of people that called for that. We could play a long reel of that. Maybe YouTube would even let that up now. We know it wouldn't have when we started doing these podcasts.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, we're not looking to cause trouble with the constabulary, but we know that there is an authoritarian streak in government. I'm not going to say it's Republican government or Democrat government. I'm saying it's uniparty government. Uniparty government wants control of we the people. And one of the ways to make people easy to control is make them poor. And 89% of the people in this country don't own anything. So easy to control a lot of folks. If you're coming in this country as an illegal and you're only getting your money from the government, you're going to do what the government tells you to do. If you're on some kind of government program and you're an American citizen, are you not going to do whatever the government says you're going to do to get that money?
Yeah, if you're dependent, you're going to do anything.
Well, that's why they don't like to have a middle class or an upper middle class or a lower upper class, because these people have means, and it's hard to tell people with means what to do. So what you do is you take all their money away from them. It's called inflation. So this color revolution, it's fundamental building block. And this is, you just need to go to Wikipedia or the CIA archives. I mean, this stuff is written down like a game plan. Like, hey, if you want to bake a bread, right, you can go right to the internet and said, how do I make a sourdough bread? And they've got this laid out. First, you got to do this, then you got to do that. And they say, if you do this, just like we're telling you here on this recipe, you're going to get a nice sourdough bread in 2 hours. Well, we've been having color revolutions for 140 years in this world. There's many, many, many examples. Ukraine being one, Serbia being another. I could go on and on and on with all of the CIA, MI6 sponsored color revolutions that have been perpetrated on peoples all over the world for, really from my perspective, time immemorial, because 140 years for me is time immemorial. And one of the critical building blocks of a color revolution is undermining the belief in electoral systems and processes. That's the cornerstone. Disputed elections serve as the primary catalyst to create color revolutions. Now, I want you to think about what a pickle we're in here. You can go back to 2018, and you got Kamala Harris and Amy Klobuchar on a very well distributed video talking about we got to get rid of these election machines, these computers, because they can be hacked and they can be used to manipulate elections. That's the Democrats. Just a few years later, we got the whole Republican, not the whole Republican Party, because the constabulary here in Minnesota, that'd be Randy Sutter and Alex Plackers, the people that run the deal. Mr. Penn, don't ever talk about election integrity. Promise us. You can't even talk about it. But we have a lot of Minnesotans that have stood up and said the election system is suspect. Some of them, like Mike Lindell, have said it's corrupt. Just said it on a recent interview we did with Mike on a previous episode. So the primary cornerstone of creating a revolution is disputed elections. The Democrats dispute them. The Republicans dispute them. We've lost confidence, many of us, in our election infrastructure. Now, it's interesting within the context of what's going on here in Minnesota. And we don't know what Tom Homan, what kind of deal he cut with Tim Walz and Brian Ellison. But what, and I'm going to talk about this just in a minute, one of the things the Trump administration wants is access to the Minnesota voter rolls. 23 states have given their voter rolls to the federal government for review. There's been 10,000 cases of illegal or improper voting in those 23 states. And the New York Times said, wow, this isn't going on. This is how manipulative the media is. 23 states, 50 million records. There's only 10,000 cases of illegal voting. Boy, that's just a right-wing conspiracy theory. What they left out above the fold was 27 states refused to give their voter rolls. If there was no fraud, why would you say no? So what the Democrats do is they say, oh, it's a privacy issue. But privacy issue, but they want to know everything else about me, like my vaccination status, for example. Come on, let's have some logical consistency. If I have to have a vaccination card to work, which is pretty personal, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Why all of a sudden do you care about my voting record? So I'm not really buying that one. I think they're holding back. I don't know what the deal is going to turn out. And we're going to cover this next week because it just happened. Yesterday the FBI went into Fulton County, Georgia, and with subpoenas and search warrants, and they took the voting records from the 2020 election, the actual ballots. They took them from the warehouse they'd been stored in Fulton County, Georgia.
Wow.
Oh, yes.
So you tell me that they stored the ballot.
They have to. They have to keep them.
They already, okay. Yeah.
There's allegedly hundreds of thousands of illegal ballots that were counted.
I just feel like when they throw those ones out.
We're going to find out because the FBI walked out of that warehouse with them.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is true either because I don't trust what I read, but I think President Trump laid out a case that President Obama was involved in this. Now, I read stuff on the internet. I don't trust it. That's why we're just alluding to it. It's going to require some research. But number one for a revolution is undermine free and fair elections. Number two for a color revolution, core democratic rights, freedom of speech, assembly, and association are core democratic rights in the Bill of Rights, are used to enable the organization of large-scale nonviolent demonstrations and the formation of opposition networks. Well, we're seeing that right in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Tens of thousands of people are involved.
A lot.
Right, and they're using but you see, we saw two different protests just at the beginning of this episode. We saw people protesting in Washington for pro-life, walking quietly. There's no violence, smiling. Everybody seemed to be having a good time.
Yeah.
Right? Then you see the same scenes in the Ukraine. Didn't look very friendly. And they're kind of reminiscent of what we're seeing in Minneapolis. So there's different kinds of protest. And I said this, we recorded a podcast yesterday that'll be up next Tuesday where we talked to some people of the emerging constituency communities here in Minnesota. And I talked about, and because you're going to hear it twice if you're a regular viewer and listener, I talked about driving to my parents' house when the Iraq War was going on about 2004, 2005. My father was still alive. They lived in St. Paul. I used to drive there almost, not every day, but every other day. I mean, I was taking care of elderly parents. And I was driving by McAllister College. Do you know where McAllister College is over on Snelling in St. Paul?
No.
It's a very important school. It's a good school as far as schools being ranked. As far as leftist schools being ranked, it's right up there at the top. It's a very leftist school.
Yeah, I don't go over the river too much.
Well, you know what? We don't like coming over here either. Anyhow, the protest, Code Pink, held protests there every day, every weekend at the corner of Snelling and Grand, which is a pretty important intersection in St. Paul. They never blocked traffic. They never threw ice snowballs at people driving by. It was never unsafe. They just stood in protest with signs against the Bush administration. And when I'm driving by there every day, it had an impact on me. But they weren't rioting in the streets.
Mm-mm.
So there's different kinds of protest, and we're going to have to sort this out. But we do have freedom of speech. We do have freedom of assembly and association. And these freedoms are being used to organize large-scale protest. Now, here's a very important one to get a revolution going. Civil society and non-governmental organizations, NGOs, charitable organizations. We got 40,000 of them in Minnesota. They're funded mostly by the government or by large foundations like the Ford Foundation, for example, the MacArthur Foundation. Charitable foundations. They're not charitable. They've got a goal. And, if you look at the goals of a lot of these organizations, if you go back and look at them, a lot of them are about, guess what? You ready? Population control. I'm just telling you, for whatever it is, like the Gates Foundation. You got to read their bylaws and their organizing principles, which anybody can do. You just have to take the time to do your own research. But these civil society and non-government organizations, democratic institutions that permit independent NGOs and civil groups are infiltrated and funded by external actors that provide training, resources, and coordination for these opposition activities. That's clearly going on here.
Yeah, because I've seen how many of they've been revealing so many like social media accounts that are purely just posts about training, how to deal with ICE officers, how to like make a stand. I've been seeing them
Who
shared
organized
across stories.
it? Who
Right.
paid for that?
Yeah.
Okay. See, now we're in a revolution. Would you please go to caucus if you love this country? This is my last podcast before caucus. Go to the Secretary of State website. There's a caucus finder module. Find out where your caucus is. Show up. All you got to do is show up. Get elected as a delegate, a precinct delegate. A month later, go to your Senate district convention. Get elected as a Senate district delegate to the state convention. 2,200 people are going to determine who the party endorses to run in the midterms. We just listened to Alan Page talk about losing the Super Bowl. He lost 4 times. And he said, it's just a football game. I don't really get that excited. I'm not even going to sign autographs. What's wrong with you people? I'm just playing football to make some money. It's a game. But we're running Michelle Tafoya here in Minnesota. They've erected her. Rod Kern met with me. Hi, Rod. Met with me, said, we need a successful businesswoman who's a pro-choice woman to appeal to the women of Minnesota. And I watched Michelle Tafoya last night talked about, I walked the sidelines where the stakes were the highest. So here's Alan Page, played in 4 Super Bowls as a player, and said, I lost Super Bowl, who cares? It's nothing. I'm not getting upset. I'm not even signing autographs because you people are goofy, idolizing professional athletes. And this is in the 70s. In the 70s, where I'll tell you, you could go right down to the bar, right on the strip, and go drink with these players after the game. They weren't making big money. They were not making big money. I was a young man in my 20s. I hung out with all these people. Some of them were my friends. I actually introduced a professional athlete to his wife. They got divorced later on, but I gave it a shot. Anyhow, here's Alan Page, one of the greatest that ever played football, minimizing his career and the impact of losing Super Bowls on his life because he knew it's just nothing. It's just a game. It's entertainment. And then we get Michelle Tafoya because we've become so deranged over time that a sports journalist, which I think is an oxymoron, from many different perspectives, because the word journalist has become really activist. There's no journalism. There hasn't been journalism for a very long time. These people are steeped, just like I am. I'm steeped in an ideology. I could call myself a journalist. I'm a commentator. They're all commentators. And to say you're a journalist and put it together with sports, come on. And, this is not what you would call a difficult thing to do for someone like me that can speak. So let's not make too much out of it. And then she said, the football game is where the stakes are the highest. This is who she's appealing to. And if you believe this and you're watching this, I'm begging you to wake up. I'm begging you to wake up. Because we're in a revolution. And the media and information systems, media and information freedom is a big part of this revolution. The democratic emphasis on free speech and information flow is used to disseminate propaganda, coordinate actions, and shape public perception. Social media and independent outlets amplify claims of corruption or rights abuses, often with international backing and eroding government legitimacy. And all I hear Tafoya say is we've got a failed leadership. Yeah, we could play a thing. Failed leadership. She's got a script. And I'm not saying that this kind of thing's just happening from the left. In fact, I see dual color revolutions, one from the left and one from the right, both funded by the exact same people. That's the part that people really have a hard time dealing with. That the money, those billionaires that were in that first picture, we're blaming immigrants so the billionaires don't get outed.
Yeah.
Those billionaires are funding that street protest and the National Republican Senatorial Committee. It's the same people and the same money. Now, do I have a flow chart of this? Can I say it's this person or that? Well, guess what? We're going to talk about in a minute. They're working on it. This administration is working on it. And the final part of getting a revolution into place is the independent judiciaries or parliaments can be pressured to validate opposition claims, such as election invalidation. So the undermining of our judicial and our legal estate is critical to undermining the legitimacy of our country. And I opened up this segment by talking about Peter Gable and how the undermining of our legal structures and how lawyers and judges see this process has been altered since the 70s and probably even since the 40s. I mean, this has been going on a long time, and now it's reaching a peak. It takes a long time to overturn a Republican system of governance where each citizen is sovereign. TireGet.com, where convenience meets the road. Why make buying tires complicated? With TireGet.com, it's simple. TireGet.com, one site, a few clicks, and the tires of your choice are shipped to an installer right by your house. You have to be convinced to give up your sovereignty. How do you do that? Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, government programs, farm programs.
Dissolve the people's culture.
Just dissolve self-governance. Dissolve self-governance. Oh, I got a sniffle. I'm going to run to the doctor. For a sniffle? Oh, my God, I could be dying. I got a cold. Oh, my God. Got to go to the doctor. Oh, my leg hurts. I got to find out what it is. Oh, my back hurts. Oh, my God. Oh, my. Do you know people had back pain since the beginning of time and just dealt with it? Strengthen your stomach. You want to make your back pain go away? It's your core that's weak. Your back is just reflecting the weakness. Live with the pain, strengthen your stomach. How do you do it? Well, there's a lot of ways you can do it, but one of the primary ways you can do it is see that light down there below your belly button. And when you're sitting in your chair, which you sit out all day at work because you're not working in the field anymore, compress your lower abdomen. And I'm going to tell you, you don't know how to do it, most of you. It takes a long time to know how to do isometric exercises where you squeeze and then release. Just that is so powerful. It's so esoteric. It's secret society stuff. But you don't have to be in a secret society to learn it. You just have to learn. And when you do that, you're actually bringing energy and massage to all your internal organs. Squeeze! And your back pain will go away. Now, I don't know when it's going to go away. If you think you're going to do it 3 times, your back's going to be better, maybe it will. That'd be a miracle. And praise God forevermore if that happened. But you claim that God will heal all my flesh. Thank you for healing my back pain, but you got to do the work. There's faith and works. Some of the people just believe in faith. I'm not one of them. Got to do some work. Like go in the caucus because your opponents are out in the streets in 10 below weather. So those 5 ideas, undermining the electoral systems, exploiting freedom of speech, using civil society and charities to fund and train, using media and free systems of information dissemination to propagandize, and then altering the judiciary, those are the predicates for a color revolution. And then you get down to political considerations. That's a very important part of it. Political considerations, including concerns over public opinion, potential backlash, legitimacy, and elite cohesion. You know, the elite's got to stay together, often play a significant role in a government's inability to effectively counter revolution. These factors, those political considerations about public opinion, lead to hesitation, delayed or half-hearted repression of revolution, or outright paralysis. Well, we're going through that in Minnesota right now. We had all, this problems here in street protests, and this woman was shot, and this man was shot, and then, whoa, there's a manufactured consent in media that this is getting out of control. And now you start to have a breakdown of elite cohesion. Incumbents, I'm talking about the government, often hesitate to use lethal force against large nonviolent crowds because it could transform the issue into a broader moral crisis. We just saw that, didn't we? We just saw that the two deaths of these people that were shot took this ICE operation from a ICE operation into a crisis about the morality of the operation. We watched it happen.
Yeah.
There's been a pause. And then what happens is you get a breakdown of elite cohesion. And this is coming in the Republican Party. So I'm going to say this to you, Republicans. If you don't hang together, you will hang separately. I ran into Stan Hamilton. He's the chair of the executive committee here in CD3. I went to a Vietnam New Year celebration, and I ran into him. It wasn't planned. And I didn't go for politics. I just went for the celebration because I like hanging around with my neighbors. I didn't go there to do politics. I went there to celebrate the New Year with my neighbors. You see, there's a difference between exploiting people, manipulating people, and really trying to have neighbors. I had no political ambition when I went there. I had no idea that the Republican Party was going to be there. I went to celebrate the Lunar New Year with my neighbors. Can you get the difference about how this works? There's being sincere about being in a community, and then there's I'm going to show up to get votes. One works, the other one doesn't. One is solidarity, the other one is manipulation. And people are not stupid. But I walked up and I talked to Stan. And I said, Stan, you know what a color revolution is? And he said, no, what is it? You're the chair of CD3. You're missing some critical information. I texted Stan all of the information I'm presenting here, and I hope Stan watches this because it may help Stan understand why he and I don't get along very well from time to time. We're friends, we respect each other, but he doesn't like my tactics, and quite frankly, I don't like his collaboration with people that have no backbone. We will hang together or we will hang separately. And why do I say that? Go look up what happens when communists get control of governments. The first thing they do is they round up their opponents and they kill them. And I said that to Stan. I don't think he believes it. But the elite cohesion breaks down at the national level. We had senators coming out, Tom Tillis, Lisa Murkowski, the usual suspects. They're always with the Democrat. And then we had Ted Cruz, another Democrat. In fact, Donald Trump said something hilarious about Ted Cruz.
Huh.
He said, I'm thinking about appointing him to the Supreme Court. He said, the Democrats don't like him, and neither do Republicans. I'm going to promote him. That's what you do sometimes in an organization. You got an asshole, I'll promote him. So, I mean, really, Trump's thinking about it. Because, he's not really with, and Trump knows it, but, you go, what are you going to do? I mean, there isn't cohesion around. There isn't cohesion around getting these 2 million criminals out of the country. We say there is, but we're going to find out right now in Minnesota, starting today, if these protesters are going to come off the streets and let ICE, allegedly now is going to be supported by the local police departments, we'll see. They're going to get these criminals, they're not looking, if they go to a restaurant to arrest a guy who's one of the 2 million, and he's sitting at a bar with 7 other people that came in illegally, they're all going back. But they're there looking for the guy, the 2 million, that opted out of the fingerprint program and just disappeared into the wind. Those people could be dangerous. Do you agree with me?
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty.
I mean, because if you turn down the money, where's your money coming from? Can't work. You're working for somebody.
Yeah.
As Bob Dylan said, you got to serve somebody. It might be the devil or it might be the Lord, but you got to serve somebody. And my suspicion is these folks are not serving the Lord. That's my suspicion. So we've got the usual suspects at the national level saying that there needs to be a pause. But what really pissed me off is the people in my own party here in Minnesota, starting out with Zach Duckworth. This is Zach Duckworth. Senator Duckworth, you suck because you say to get elected in Minnesota as a Republican, you got to trick the Republicans. And if you're going to run a trick on me, I don't like you. No, at any time you can meet with me, you can come into the studio, you can tell me you misspoke, you want to think it through differently, you can have a baggage drop, we can all change. But I'm holding you accountable for you saying on video, and we played it here, that to get elected as a Republican, you got to trick Republicans. You know what? I want to say something. Can you edit this out? Fuck you, Zach. Fuck you. Okay? Don't trick people. We don't want that kind of politics. It's not going to save our country. Only the search for truth is going to save this republic. Remember, Zach, President George Washington? He could not tell a lie. Honest Abe Lincoln, the fundamental great leaders, the great men of our culture are erected as people who stood on truth and the search for truth. And you go publicly and say you got to lie to get elected? No, I can't accept that, sir. And of course, Zach was the first one that came out. At this moment, it's critical that local, state, and federal officials work collaboratively to install public trust and confidence in their conduct. Oh, really? They should partner on investigations, stay grounded in facts, exercise restraint, and ensure transparency to best serve the public. We're long overdue for a tactical pause. Leaders at all levels need to assess the current situation for what it is, not for what they want it to be. Take the temperature and the rhetoric down, allow for a reset, de-escalate, adjust tactics, realign with the core mission, keeping us safe. When are we going to understand here in Minnesota, Zach, that the Democrat socialists are getting in control of the Democrat Party? They're way down the road to it. They've got their doppelgangers over on the right, which is the MAGA movement, which you're clearly not part of. Standing on a stage with Julia Coleman and Tim Pawlenty at a forum put on by the Star Tribune. You're clearly not MAGA. They wouldn't have invited any hardcore Republicans to that forum. And here you are talking about let's all get along. And you know what? I was in this state when we did all get along, and it was a Republican state. I'm twice your age. And I know exactly how we went from where we were to where we are. Study your history, young man. Then Zach Duckworth pops up on CNN. Listen to this one. It's always terrible when someone loses their life. And the people of Minnesota, I think wisely, are asking for leaders to pause, take the rhetoric down, calm the situation, and return the focus on where it should be, which is keeping us all safe. And I think that's where things currently stand here in Minnesota. What I would prefer to see, folks, rather than entrenching in their respective sides, find a way to come together. We're gonna unite with godless atheist communists. That's great, Zach. Thank you. And I think that's why, whether it's the governor in combination with the attorney general and whatever leaders at the federal level need to just push pause on the rhetoric right now, like they did after the Portman shootings. Yeah, we're going to take down the tone. And these people are out in the streets in mass numbers. The Hortmans were just killed last year, 6 months ago. Remember? Let's take the rhetoric down. Come on. The rhetoric's not going down, dude. The rhetoric's not going down. You are fracturing but of course that's your goal, is to fracture it. So, okay, great. Now we know who you are. And, throwing rhetorical bombs at one another and find a room somewhere to have a conversation to say, hey, what we're doing isn't working. We still want to apprehend people who are not here legally, that are violent criminals. And Tom Homan said, no, Zach, that's not what President Trump is doing. I listened to Homan this morning say, if the message is, if you're not a violent criminal, but you came in this country illegally, it's okay. No, that's not the message. If you're here illegally, you're a criminal.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not backing off at the federal level, Zach. You are. You're siding with the color revolution. You're a very important, useful idiot in the effort to overturn the Republic of the United States. And I hope you lose your seat in the Senate for that kind of talking. That's just my opinion. You want to come in and argue with me? I know you won't, but you're welcome, and I'll treat you respectfully, and you can lay out your case, and I won't be bombastic, because when I'm interviewing, I'm an interviewer. When I'm here as a journalist, I'm not. I'm a commentator. I'm not saying I'm trying to be a journalist. I'm trying to be a commentator, and I'm commenting on you abandoning your party for the leftist constituents in your district who you're catering to. But you're not the only one. The Chamber of Commerce, not my favorite group, they rounded up 60 top companies here in Minnesota to put out a statement to take down the rhetoric and end this. And why did they do it? We don't want to get in the way of the cash flow. I mean, come on, we don't want to get in the way of the cash flow. Cargill's on the list right down the block from us. And then one of my favorites, Julia Coleman. Oh, Julia. Julia's such a great white liberal woman catering to the liberals in her district, calling herself a Republican. Minnesota deserves better than a Trump versus Walz standoff. After tragic shootings and rising tensions, I'm calling on all sides to de-escalate. Everybody must have got the de-escalate memo from somebody.
Yeah.
Pause targeted operations. Pause targeted operations. Tom Homan talked about targeted operations going on in this country for 40 years. He started as a street player. That their targeted operations are there to remove these 2 million people. She's saying pause them? Pause them. Honor ICE detainers for criminals. Well, thank you very much. Mayor Fry said he wasn't going to do it. We'll see how it comes out after this week's negotiations. Negotiate and prioritize peace. Oh, peace. It's so nice to be peaceful. You know, Julia, why don't you go read Matthew 10:34? Read it. We have a very strange idea about peace. Peace. I didn't come to bring peace, but I came with a sword. Understand that we're living in a psyop. Peace is not accepting that the guy living next door to me came into this country, didn't get fingerprinted, and is working for a gang, and you want to pause the operation to get him out of my neighborhood? Oh, please. And Julia Coleman, always on the right side of history. And then, of course, I have to, my favorite, right here in my district, Andrew Myers, the one that stood up with Katrina Witt on the day she said that Hampton County Sheriff's Office would not support ICE's efforts in Minneapolis. And Andrew put a picture of him and Katrina Witt up on his social media and said, so happy to be with the Hennepin County Sheriff. We support everything she does. On the day that she said she wouldn't work with ICE, with the tragedies impacting Minnesota and our communities facing loss, our district of Minnesotans are looking for state and federal leadership with solutions, not words that create further division. Further division, what kind, are these people dumb? Are they just dumb? Do they know the people your age? Really? I mean, am I going to be able to sit down with a leftist your age and convince him of my position?
Hell no. Not even close.
I can't even talk to him.
I don't think you'd move past the discussion of you mentioned it earlier, trying to break down that wall between left or right politics. You wouldn't get past that.
Because they're brainwashed.
Yeah.
Okay, Andrew, this is a scam you're into here. This is your pitch to the liberals in your district so you can keep your dog bowl full. Listen to this. Responsibility belongs to all of us. Well, I agree with that. Regardless of party affiliation, I agree with that. Now is the time to end the blame game and focus on, de-escalation. There it is again. Who sent out the de-escalation memo?
I know.
Partnership and common sense solutions. Common sense. A leadership meeting that directly addresses the priorities before us should happen without delay, along with the inclusion of the BCA in any investigation to ensure transparency, accountability, and public trust. As an elected official, our work should focus on bringing Minnesotans together, reducing the divide, protecting lives, and creating better options and opportunities for all. That's so nice. Do you know, Andrew? Thousands of your fellow citizens braved 10-degree below weather to go protest this. They're organized by NGOs. They're hardcore revolutionaries. You don't want to deal with that. You just want to get votes from the liberals in your district so you can keep your money coming in. And I don't like that, okay? I don't like that. Well, how do you thwart a color revolution? We talked about here's how you make one. You know, the CIA also has a manual on how you bust one. There's a manual.
Oh, nice.
So you got a recipe for making the sourdough bread, and you got a recipe for turning it back into flour. And you know what? It's very important we learn this because this is the punchline of tonight's podcast. This is a rather academic podcast because we got to know where we are. I mean, there's 266 previous podcasts on how we got here. Is this 267 tonight? I can't remember.
275.
275. There's 274 previous podcasts of how we got here. Now we got to figure out how we get out of this mess. And I'm going to tell you, the Trump administration has been in office but yet 1 year. And when you look at what they've done, and this is, I don't know. I mean, I don't understand this part of President Trump, but I look at what they're doing and I analyze it and I realize when they got elected, they knew there was a revolution because we're going to go through the manual of how to thwart one of these revolutions and relate it to what the Trump administration is doing. Isn't that interesting? You see, they don't describe it to us because you know what? It's an operation. It's just like the people running the color revolution. They don't raise their hand and go, hey, we're running a color revolution. We want to topple the republic. We want all your money. We want you to live in a 15-minute city, and we want you to die because we don't need you because we got robots and AI now. That's one group. And then we got another group. They're not ideologically pure on this AI robot thing, but they want America to stay America. They got a lot of criticisms for everybody. And that's why politics is ongoing. Everything is a move forward or a move back. In my humble opinion, from my perspective, irregardless if you like Trump or not, we're moving towards, he's trying to, and the people around him are trying to maintain a republic. Now, the shape and form of that republic is to be determined. But if you want to defeat a revolution, a color revolution, you must strengthen the institutions of your society. Number one, think about what Trump has done. Bolster the ruling party's dominance and ideological unity to resist subversion, ensuring loyalty across key institutions like the military, the judiciary, and security forces. This includes ideological indoctrination and economic incentives to prevent defection. Well, let's think about some of the things President Trump has done since he's been President Trump. Well, number one, he unified the Republican Party. Nobody stands up really in the party and goes against Trump. I mean, there's a few Democrats that do. They call themselves Republicans like Julia Coleman. But mostly, everybody, even if they don't like them, they keep their mouth shut. They either like them or they fear them. That's called, he strengthened the party's dominance and ideological unity. Where we were in 2015 was a globalist country addicted to free trade and endless money printing. Look where we've gone. We were friends with the Chinese. We're integrated with the Chinese. We're integrated with the Europeans. We're integrated with the whole globalist thing. We love the United Nations. Look at all the unmasking Trump has done in the ideological unity he's created, not necessarily around him, but around a new set of ideas about America. So brave. And then ensuring loyalty across key institutions like the military. Hey, he just asked for a $1.5 trillion military budget. Hey, baby, you want to keep people happy in the military? Feed the beast. He's doing it. Economic incentives, taking care of the farmers, got subsidies for farmers, taking care of these people. In the last thing, the COVID thing, we had the Paycheck Protection Program. All the small businesses got a taste. First time I ever got a taste of government money. Kept me in business. I mean, he's passing out the cash. We're going to have we're going to have a dividend on the duties, on the tariffs next year. Everybody's going to get money back. I mean, come on, this guy is pretty sophisticated. Why is he doing that? Because he's trying to make ideological unity. And if it takes money to do it, he's passing out the cash. Right? Number 2, unify elites by mediating their interests and punishing disloyalty selectively to avoid splits that external actors could exploit. Well, how do you unify the elites? I remember we played here his inaugural, when he got inaugurated. And Jeff Bezos was there, and Mark Zuckerberg was there, and Elon. And we're going, Victor Borla from Pfizer was in the White House. I mean, why are all these people, we don't like these people. Why are they in the White House? Man, Trump's a sellout. We trust Trump. He's hanging around with these people these tech giants, like all of them are in the White House. Well, what he's doing is he's unifying elites by mediating their interests. What is this AI thing that's going on with 40,000 scientists and 27 nuclear reactors? This is a problem, but it also unifies the elites around the Trump agenda. Now, this is a little hard for people to get their brains wrapped around, but nobody is with Donald Trump. How's he going to get anything done? You can put somebody on the payroll with EBT and they'll do what they tell you to do. You give them 27 nuclear reactors and 40,000 scientists, hey, we're all good with that. So there's a lot of ways to create unity. Number 3, thinking about this is how we defeat a color revolution. Address underlying grievances through economic subsidies, anti-corruption optics, or fair electoral processes to reduce public discontent that fuels protest. Address underlying grievances, economic subsidies. Well, there's a lot of economic subsidy going on. Anti-corruption optics. Well, hey, that's Minnesota. The anti-corruption thing in Minnesota didn't come from Minnesotans. It came from the feds. People get pissed when they pay more and more taxes and get less and less back in services. It creates the foundation for a revolution. And then we're going to find out that on a $68 billion budget, there's $20 billion of fraud. That if they bust that up, if they start indicting people, that's going to cool a lot of people out, because now we're going to have justice. When there's no justice, there's no peace. You've heard that?
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're kind of seeing it right now, yeah.
Right. But if you brought back justice, and what does justice rest on? The search for truth. That's why it's truth, justice, and peace. So if you're living in a lie and there's no justice, you're guaranteeing a color revolution, because people can be manipulated. They can only take the bullshit for so long. This has been building up for 100 years. So we're right here. And so this is what he's doing. He is actually working on the underlying issues of corruption and creating fair electoral processes, and our states fighting them. Our states, they don't want their, I say this, I've said it on many podcasts. If you really wanted to have a cohesive society that worked for everybody, and you're Democrats and you're in control, and you got election laws that people are not, and you say, you guys are conspiracy theorists. Okay, give me a concession. Can we just have a show a driver's license? Of course, we have driver's licenses for everybody here. Can we show some kind of citizen? Remember we talked about in Minnesota, you are automatically registered to vote when you get a driver's license.
Yeah.
And non-citizens can get driver's licenses.
Yeah, the driver's license for all. And then the added bonus that I thought was crazy is that there's no indication on that ID that they're not a U.S. citizen.
Right. I mean, doesn't that create the conditions for unrest?
Yeah.
Yes. Could you just fix it, Democrats? I mean, maybe we are just conspiracy theorists. Why would you continue this when people are out in the streets going crazy? I mean, if you really want to damp the rhetoric down, Julia, come on. Stand up on the soapbox and deal with the core issues. Don't pick around the edges. Here comes winter. In winter, good tires aren't a luxury, they're a necessity for safety. At TireGet.com, getting your winter tires is quick, easy, and priced right. With TireGet.com, you order online, install right by your house, and stay safe on the road this winter season. Number 4. Oh, this is quite Trumpian. Promote nationalism. If you want to defeat a color revolution, promote nationalism. Well, I'd say he's a strong supporter of America First. That kind of sounds nationalistic. Number 5, secure ideological battlegrounds like universities. And what's the very first thing Trump did when he came into office? He went after Harvard. He went after Columbia. He went after the academic institutions, and he tried to get some reins on them, threatening the removal of federal funds. And Amy Klobuchar and all of them go, oh, people are going to die of cancer now. They go, okay, they're turning my kids into leftists, and I got 5 of them I've sent through, and they were all ideologically not leftists. I put them in the best schools. They all came out communists, every one of them. I mean, University of Minnesota, University of Chicago, Columbia University, Cal Arts, and University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. They're all indoctrination centers. And my kids are pretty damn smart. They might figure it out someday. Some people never going to figure it out. So he went after the universities. That's the 5th way you can defeat a color revolution. And this is a long-term plan to regain social solidarity around the idea of a republic, which is heavily undermined. 6, exploit divisions and opposing alliances, such as supporting anti-establishment factions abroad to weaken coordinated sanctions on our country. In other words, hey, NATO, go bite a hog in the ass. I don't want to be in international trade agreements. The UN, I'm withdrawing out of 67 United Nations agencies that are working against the United States of America. He's doing it. And people are going, oh, why is he doing this? Because these countries and these alliances are intended to bring the republic to an end. He knows it. They came in with a game plan. They talk all the time about Trump came with a game plan. He did. He's trying to undo the color revolution. Let's play number 6.
This job and these people who want to say follow ICE, and film ICE, you know what? You can protest. They have that right. But when you cross that line, and we've proven it, if you interfere or impede or assault an ICE officer, you will be prosecuted. And one thing I'm pushing for right now, Laura, we're going to create a database where those people that are arrested for interference, impediment, assault, we're going to make them famous. We're going to put their face on TV. We're going to let their employers in their neighborhoods, in their schools, know who these people are. Because as you said, a lot of these people, they say they're taking time off work to protest. I bet you a lot of them are calling in sick. I bet you a lot of their employers don't know what they're doing. But we're going to make sure everybody knows who they are. We're going to broadcast. They want to broadcast the ICE officer that was nearly killed all over the internet. We're going to broadcast every one of these people we arrest.
The CIA manual to defeat a color revolution. Number 7, monitor and infiltrate demonstrations to identify leaders, then discredit or isolate them through media campaigns or selective arrests. Doesn't that sound exactly like it's out of the playbook? That clip? We're going to out these people. We're going to discredit them with their employers. We're not going to let them hide. I mean, this is right out of the playbook. These people are working a counterinsurgent. I'm talking about the administration. Y'all criticizing them. They're dealing with an insurgency, and they're following a counterinsurgency strategy. Number 8, escalate controlled force if needed to disperse crowds while avoiding mass violence that could galvanize backlash. Well, that's what we're doing here in Minnesota. Trump is trying to use enough force and enough negotiation to disperse these crowds, and they really are trying to disperse these crowds without mass violence. There's been no mass violence. There's been some awful killings, and I think everybody can agree we don't want to see human life lost. And what Tom Homan said today is he doesn't want to comment on it. Investigations are ongoing, and he's not going to comment. He wants to see what the investigations yield downstream. Just this morning he said that. But they're not out there machine gunning these people. And I'm going to guarantee you, this was China, all these people would be dead. And why do we know that? Because we have history. The Tiananmen Square massacre, when the students and the protesters were out in the streets in 1991, they just rolled in with tanks and killed everybody. That kind of brings a revolution to an end. Everybody dies. We're not doing that. This is how you take care of a color revolution. And let's play number 7.
That are behind this.
Jack, that is what we have started a few months ago. We are going to, again, what we do is we follow the money, and all of these agitators who are causing violence night after night, Portland, Minneapolis, the other locations, someone is funding them. When they have lasers that they blind DHS officers with, when they hold up all the same umbrellas, someone bought those umbrellas. And there is a money trail, and we are going to follow it. So Treasury through FinCEN can do that. IRS has a badass group called Criminal Investigators. Anybody watching your show who wants to join, we are going to try to add 50%. They have more investigators, and they're great because they can look at financial fraud, and they carry guns. They go out in the field and they make arrests. And it was IRS criminal investigators who got to the initial fraud here, because the state of Minnesota wasn't doing it. The corrupt Tim Walz wasn't doing it. He was turning a blind eye.
Well, and that's another question I would actually add back on the fraud perspective, because
that's Secretary of the Treasury Scott Bessent. Number 9, if you want to beat a color revolution, disrupt funding and organizations by targeting NGOs and cutting off the cash. Did he just not say that? Yeah. I mean, this is a playbook, people. You're in a revolution. The revolution is now. It's here. And in number 10, in extreme cases, simulate counter uprisings or provide direct support to loyalist forces to shift momentum. You know what that's called? That's called MAGA. The MAGA movement is a counterinsurgency movement. MAGA is a counterinsurgency movement. So all you folks that are not aligned with MAGA, you're aligned with the revolution. Do you get it, Julia? Do you get it, Zach? Do you get it? No, you don't get it. You think I'm a wingnut, a conspiracy theorist. But just go do your homework. Do your homework. The evidence is right here. I just laid out the 10 ways that you stop an insurgency, a revolution. And President Trump, from the day he walked into office, all of his policies are aimed at preserving this republic. So if you're not with the program, guess what? Remember what George Bush said? If you're not with us, you're with the terrorists. Very simple. Got to choose the side of the football, kids. Got to choose the sides of the football. So Pam Bondi sent a letter to Tim Walz, and she said this all could come to an end if guess what? Provide full access to Minnesota records on Medicaid, food and nutrition service programs, including SNAP food stamps and related benefits. This ties to federal investigations of alleged fraud and misuse by non-citizens and undocumented illegal aliens. We just want to know who's using the money that doesn't deserve it because it's for American citizens. Number 2, Governor Walz, according to Pam Bondi, we can bring this to an end if you would just repeal your sanctuary policies, which, of course, that's not going to happen. That's why all this, we're going to tone down the rhetoric. That's not going to happen in Minneapolis. It's just not. And Minnesota's sanctuary-style policies. You know, the Minnesota is one thing, Minneapolis is another. We've talked about the city council and mayor in Minneapolis. They're not going to give up sanctuary status. And this is Pam Bondi to Tim Walz and Jacob Fry and Minnesota's sanctuary-style policies. And them. Let the federal government do its work to find these 2 million undocumented illegal criminals in our country for a start. Number 3, here's the critical one. Hey, would you please just share the voter roll data? Provide access to Minnesota voter registration rolls in databases. We could do those 3 things. Stop the fraud. Start working with the government because we're all one country. And let's see the voter rolls. Hey, this can all come to an end. And people went crazy that it was like some kind of extortion racket. Yes, we're dealing with an insurgency. It's an insurgency. It's a revolution. And we are the counter-revolution. We, the Republicans of this state, go to caucus. Go to caucus, please. Well, we don't have enough people in this state that walk by faith and not by sight. They may say they're Christians or Jews or Muslims or Zoroastrians, whatever. Sounds good. It's an identity. No, we don't have enough people of faith that are willing to do what it takes to maintain that freedom to believe. Because this whole revolution, in my opinion, if you look at the history of it, look at all this script I didn't get through. You do 4 hours today. No problem. Man, there's a lot of people got off the hook. Okay, I got a whole list of names I was going to call out. Maybe we'll do it next week. You know, I'm really torn about this. I'm torn.
Yeah.
I'm torn. But we're going to try to end on time. And I'm just going to say in closing, communism, Marxism, socialism is the unifying ideology for the people that are in the streets. They are trying to end the Republican system. Now, I think most of them believe it's an economic movement, that there's these billionaires and they're corrupting everything. But actually, all these people that are out in the streets, they go home and cash their EBT.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit of a logical contradiction when the system is corrupt and you're dependent on it, which means you're corrupt, which means the system has organized them to go out into the streets.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's ironic that they're protecting a group of people that were used by said billionaires. It's in the billionaires' interest for all these immigrants to be here.
A very good point.
So, you know, screw the billionaire, but let me do his bidding.
And the same billionaires fund the National Republican Senatorial Committee, who have now erected Michelle Tafoya as the great next senator for Minnesota.
Lovely.
The same people, the same money. Do you all get this, Republicans? I know it's tough. You got to do some homework. Maybe you're going to think Professor Penn, David Penn, is a goofball. That's possible, because people tell me that. That's what Michael Broadcorp said. He said I was mentally ill.
Mm.
He did. I try not to talk about Michael. We have a piece right now. Piece is broken up. And I'll tell you the truth about it. I see him and it's so stupid watching these people. They're so stupid that I just can't even respond to them. At one point, I wasn't responding because I just didn't want to have the fight, because it's just going to be a fight with no outcome. And now I look at what's going on with Dustin Gage. Dustin Gage and Michael Broadcorp squared off this week.
Yeah.
And they were on the same payroll. So, see, that's an elite fracture in there. But the point I'm trying to bring out is it's so dumb. It's just so dumb that I can't even deal with it right now. I'm not saying it won't be better next week or tomorrow, but for the last couple of weeks on X, and those of you that follow me on X, I haven't been posting a lot because the discourse is so stupid. I'm watching this Michelle Tafoya get fenced all over conservative Inc. media, and she says the same thing every place she goes. She's so polished, and she says nothing. I mean, if you really listen to her, she has nothing to say. She's just a sports journalist. Putting that microphone in the wide receiver's face at the end of the first half when the team's down 21-0. Go to the star quarterback, go to the coach. Well, that was a tough half, coach. Well, yes, it was, Michelle. We're going to go in the locker room and we're going to put everything aside. We're going to regain our game plan. We're going to get it together, and we're going to come out ready to play in the second half. Have you ever heard him say anything different?
Mm-mm.
Only one time, when Royce White was interviewed after winning the Big Three championship, and one of these sports journalists like Michelle Tafoya stuck a microphone in his face and said, "How does it feel to win the championship? Free the Uyghurs." I mean, that's a little different, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
We need a difference. If you can get your head wrapped around the fact that the same money and the same people and the same counsel that we don't have access to because we're not in their club, and we could just run an hour of videos with them standing around making hand magic signs, because they do. You You know, when you think you won, you get bold. These people hid for a long time. They're not hiding now because you know what? They've won. Look at gold and silver, the price of gold and silver. This is not a good sign what's happening. Look at what's happening to the dollar. And this is an economic currency war to destroy your net worth, to make you a slave, a feudal slave, to put you in a 15-minute city. Oh, it's a conspiracy city. No, it's right on the UN website. They're already rolling out the 15-minute cities in Europe. Everything you need is 15 minutes from your house. If you go outside your zone, your money turns off. Doesn't work.
What?
Yes.
That's a part of it.
That's the critical part of it.
You can't, your money is no longer good outside
when
of that
we go
zone.
to digital currency, when this currency fails, which is Trump is trying to alter this, but this thing is so far down the road with $38 trillion in debt, I don't know what he can get done. I mean, I'm not saying everybody who's listening here is an expert in finance, but I'm expert enough to know that when you're dragging along $38 trillion of debt, you're fucked. Okay? And that's us. That debt is mine. So my point in saying this is, if you go read the United Nations plan, they write it all down. The goal is to convert over to a digital system where everything is, in fact, monetizable. Not just your work, but what you think, where you go, what website you go to. Let's go out with playing a few reminders of where we're headed and where we've been. Could you please play number 18?
This is a war that should have never happened. It's a war the Russians tried repeatedly to settle on terms that were very, very beneficial to Ukraine and us. The major thing they wanted was for us to keep NATO out of the Ukraine. The big military contractors want to add new countries to NATO all the time. Why? Because then that country has to conform its military purchases to NATO weapon specifications, which means certain companies, Northrop Grumman, Raytheon, General Dynamics, Boeing, and Lockheed, get a trapped market. In March of 2022, we committed $113 billion. Just to give you an example, we could have built a home for almost every homeless person in this country. We then committed another $24 billion since then, 2 months ago, and now President Biden's asking for another $60 billion. But the big, big expenses are going to come after the war, when we have to rebuild all the things that we destroyed. Mitch McConnell was asked, can we really afford to spend $113 billion to Ukraine? He said, don't worry. It's not really going to Ukraine.
It's going to American defense manufacturers.
So he just admitted it's a money laundering scheme. And who do you think owns every one of those companies? BlackRock. So Tim Scott, during the Republican debate,
Stop,
said,
please.
don't worry.
Wait. Tim Scott is the chair of the National Republican Senatorial Committee. He is the person that put Michelle Tafoya into the Senate race here in Minnesota. Let's listen to Tim Scott.
It's not a gift to Ukraine. It's a loan. So raise your hand if you think that that loan's ever getting paid back. Yeah, of course it's not. So why do they call it a loan? Because if they call it a loan, they can impose loan conditions. And what are the loan conditions that we impose on? Number one, an extreme austerity program, so that if you're poor in Ukraine, you're going to be poor forever. Number two, most important, Ukraine has to put all of its government-owned assets up for sale to multinational corporations, including all of its agricultural land, the biggest single asset in Europe. In Ukraine, there's been 1,000 years of war fought over that land. It's the richest farmland in the world. It's the breadbasket of Europe. 500,000 kids almost, Ukrainian kids, have died to keep that land as part of Ukraine. They almost certainly didn't know about this loan condition. They've already sold 30% of it. The buyers were DuPont, Cargill, and Monsanto. Who do you think owns all of those companies? Yeah, BlackRock. And then in December, President Biden gave out the contract to rebuild Ukraine. And who do you think got that contract? BlackRock. So they're doing this right in front of us. They don't even care that we know anymore. because they know that they can get away with it. And how do they know that? Because they have a strategy. And that strategy is an old strategy, which is they keep us at war with each other. They keep us hating on each other. They keep the Republicans and Democrats fighting each other, black against white, and all these divisions that they sell.
Cargill, 15 minutes from where we sit right now, Tanner, is in on this deal. And Tim Scott, the person who put Michelle Tafoya in the game, is right in the middle of this rape of the world. A rape. It's rape. They're raping the Ukrainian people for the most productive farmland on the planet. And Cargill's bought it, and she's here to represent their interests. And if you vote for her, you're fucking stupid. Okay? Because they're coming for your money next. All you Gucci, fucking uptowner, wealthy Republicans with 401ks, you're not on the in club. They're taking your money too. You're going to be just like those poor black people you demonize down in the CD5. Your endpoint, Alex Plekish, and all the rest of you people, is the exact same as the poorest people in this state. Because you're not really there. You think you are. No, what they're going to do when they get control is they're going to shoot your asses. Let's play the next one because I'm making a case here at the end. Number 17, please.
And actually, my prediction is in the benign scenario of the future that the robots will actually make so many robots and AI that they will actually saturate all human needs. Meaning you won't be able to even think of something to ask the robot for at a certain point. There will be such an abundance of goods and services because my prediction is there'll be more robots than people. So,
but how do you then have human purpose in that scenario?
Yeah, I mean, nothing's perfect, But,
Stop. Did you all get that? Did you hear that? There's going to be more robots than people. And Larry Fink, who's the chairman of BlackRock, interviewing Musk, says, well, what about people? Oh, nothing's perfect. He's pitching a world where the robots know all your needs before you even ask them. In other words, we don't exist. Human agency is gone. That is what he's selling. Sounds great, doesn't it? Sounds so great. And then he's going to say, if we can continue this, that everybody's going to want a robot. Everybody's going to want a slave. See, this thing is we're so far down the road on this that if you don't go to caucus, what can I say, please?
But I mean, it is a necessary. You can't have both. You can't have work that has to be done and amazing abundance for all. Because if it's work that has to be done, then you and only some people can do it, then you can't have abundance for all.
Stop again, please. Let's remember what's at stake in the streets. Marxism versus faith in Christ. What he's saying is, you don't have to work by the sweat of your brow. Because you have done this thing, you will work by the sweat of your brow for your daily bread, and the earth will give you thorns and thistles. See, this is the overturn of a 5,700-year tradition. This is the paradigm shift of all paradigm shifts. So if you would like the robots to be your God, don't go to caucus. Please continue. Let's finish Elon.
Yeah. Exactly. So, but if you have billions of humanoid robots, and I think there will be, I think everyone on Earth is going to have one and going to want one, because who wouldn't want a robot to, assuming it's very safe, watch over your kids, take care of your pet. If you have elderly parents, a lot of friends of mine have said they have elderly parents. It's very difficult to take care of them.
Expensive.
Yeah, it's expensive, and there just aren't enough people to take care of there aren't enough young people to take care of the old people.
Right.
So if you had a robot that could take care of and protect an elderly parent, I think that would be great. That would be an amazing thing to have.
And let's just play how they're going to take care of us. Because what they're doing, I mean, you have children. I'm going to have a robot take care of my children. My dog. What's the point of having a dog if we're going to have my robot walk the dog?
Yeah.
We don't need dogs anymore. In fact, if we're not going to take care of our children, what's the point of having children? And parents? The greatest thing I ever did in my life was take care of my father while he was dying. That is the thing that I have the most peace about in my entire life, caring for him as he died. I took him from when he got sick to the day I was there a half hour after he died. And it's not even pride. It's about being a human being. And they're going to remove that because everybody's going to have a very affordable humanoid robot. And they're going to take care of us. I'm going to show you how they're going to take care of us. Let's play number 19.
COVID was, for me, like a rehearsal.
There will absolutely be an outbreak of another pandemic. It may be next year.
You know, we just need to mess around. There's a lot of lipid nanoparticles, and some are very self-assembly.
We know what's next. A new wave of pandemics is going to be upon us.
I'm convinced that there will be another pandemic.
Certainly we'll have one in the next 25 years. You know, there's even some pathogens out there that we're watching over right now. And so I'd probably put bioterror, which is a really awful.
We are going to see a whole new age of biological weapons. We have to grapple with that reality because that is what is coming.
I can't go into all the details, but there are man-made threats that we were prepared to deal with.
When the next pandemic comes knocking, and it will, we must be ready to answer decisively.
You know, we'll have to prepare for the next one. That, you know, I'd say is will get attention this time.
Okay, so hey, I guess the robots can take care of us while we're dying of the next pandemic.
Yeah.
And let's just end the podcast with the most brutal of honest pundits and prognosticators. Harari, please play number 20.
Is the end of human history. Not the end of history, the end of human-dominated history. History will continue with somebody else in control. If it was a question of, you know, humankind versus a common threat of these new intelligent alien agents here on Earth, then yes, I think that there are ways we can contain them. But if the humans are divided among themselves and are in an arms race, then it becomes almost impossible to contain this alien intelligence. And there is, I'm tending to think of it more in terms of really an alien invasion. That like somebody coming and telling us that, you know, there is a fleet, an alien fleet of spaceships coming from planet Zircon or whatever, with highly intelligent beings. They'll be here in 5 years and take over the planet. Maybe they'll be nice. Maybe they'll solve cancer and climate change, but we are not sure. This is what we are facing, except that the aliens are not coming in spaceships from planet Zircon, they're coming from the laboratory. Atom bombs didn't have a potential for agency. Printing presses did not have a potential for agency. This thing, again, unless we contain it, and the problem of containing it is very difficult because potentially they'll be more intelligent than us. How do you prevent something more intelligent than you from developing the agency it has? I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying it's very, very difficult. Maybe in a couple of decades, Earth will be populated or even dominated by entities that are not organic, that they don't breathe, they don't have emotions. Like the potential of AI is much, much bigger than any historical revolution.
There's a lot of people that hate themselves, a lot of people that hate God, to the extent that they would wipe all of us out and create a new life form that would replace humanity. It's just as simple as going to caucus. I mean, this is where we're at. The reason this is possible is because we don't exercise our self-governance. We've turned it over to psychopaths and criminals that are ushering in a new age that's anti-human. And I know that it's going to be a little bit far for a lot of the people that listen to this to get their minds around, but you got to do your own research. There's a lot of previous episodes to go look at to get the receipts. And we better get our mind wrapped around this right now because we're playing what's called a backgammon. We've already lost. It's going to take a miracle to get us out of the trap that we find ourselves. Very dark way to end tonight's podcast, but in the search for truth, I have to call them like I see them. Thank you very much. You're still free to breathe this weekend. You're still free to practice isometric exercises to strengthen your back. You're still free to practice your will so that you're not abused. Work on it. I'm going to work on it. I look forward to seeing you next week.
Have a good night, everybody.